Hare Krishna. Welcome to all the devotees for our Bhagavad Cosmology presentations. So in the previous class, we have seen about Sun, Moon, and 27 nakshatras, 27 constellations, specifically about Sun's chariot, the location of Sun, how he is revolving around Mount Meru, being connected to Mount Meru at its base, etc., etc. And then we have also seen about Moon. What is Moon is all about? Moon has got two parts. One side the Sadyas are residing, other side the Pitrus are residing. And then Moon is made up of solidified water, etc., etc., etc. And then as we go towards north, true north, we have the 27 nakshatras, which are occupied by the 27 daughters of Daksha, who are given in marriage to Moon God. So for your information, I think I have put the names. Yeah, these are the names of all those 27 daughters. Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, Migashira, Arudra, Punarvasu, Pushya, Ashlesha, Maga, Purva Palguni, Uttara Palguni, Asta, Chitra, Swati, Vishaka, Anuradha, Jeshta, Mula, Purva Shada, Uttara Shada, Shravana, Dhanishta, Shatabisha, Purva Bhadra, Uttara Bhadra, and Revati. These are the 27 daughters of Daksha who are married to Moon God, and they are residing in different nakshatras. And whenever Abhijit comes, he comes between Uttarashada and Shravana. So that is his position. He is not there always, seen by people in general, but whenever he would come, the reason I don't know why he comes and disappears, but that is what is being mentioned here in this part. And we have also seen the distinction between different objects that are revolving in the sky. We have 9 grahas headed by Sun. The 7 grahas correspond to 7 days of the week and Rahu Ketu. And then we have 27 star groups, the names which I have read. They are technically called as Riksha, but in our daily usage, they are called as Nakshatra. And then all other stars are called Taraka, which are generally inhabited by all the heavenly denizens, heavenly people. So, and we have seen some examples that the heavenly people reside in Vimanas, and some examples from Bhagavatam we have seen. And today we will continue on after nakshatras. So as we go upward by 2 lakh yojanas or 0.2 million yojanas above the constellations, there we have Venus or Shukra Graha. Tata uparistad ushana dvilaksha yojanata upalabhyate. As you go upward 2 lakh yojanas, you will get to see Shukra Graha, and which moves like the sun, sometimes going behind the sun, sometimes going ahead of sun. So Purvata Pascha Sahaiva Varkyasya Shaigra Mandya Samabhyat Gatibir Arkavacharati. It also moves like the sun, but sometimes it is going ahead of sun, sometimes lagging behind by sun, and like that it has equal speed that of sun and faster than the sun, slower than the sun. Different speeds are there for this. And this particular Shukra Graha is always favorable for all. Bhagavatam gives some final details. So how the effects are there. Details we don't know. An astrologer can help us. But generally Shukra Graha is favorable for all people. It is generally causes rain and it removes the evil influences of other planets. And for your information, Shukra Graha is the abode of Shukracharya and all his brothers and other people. The descendants of Bhrugumuni are staying in Shukra Graha and with their leader Shukracharya. Then as you go upward by another 2 lakh yojanas, there comes Buddha, Mercury. So Buddha is the son of Moon God. So Moon God married, not married, he begot a son through Tara, who was the wife of Brihaspati, and that son was Buddha. Bhagavatam 9th canto talks about him. And Buddha also moves like the sun, similar to Venus, sometimes behind and sometimes ahead of sun. So same category of movement. It is generally auspicious, but as and when it goes away from the sun, it causes fearful situations such as drought, cyclones, and continual clouds, etc., etc. Generally, it is auspicious, but whenever it goes away from sun, and it creates all these bad effects. And as we go upward, another 2 lakh yojanas above Mercury, we have Angaraka, which is also called as Mars, Kuja, Mangala, etc. Different names are there. Generally, it is inauspicious, indicating grief. Passes through each sign in 3 fortnights. Some details about the movement that we will discuss later on. 12 signs he passes through in 1.5 years. So in the previous Buddha Graha, the son of moon god, Buddha himself is residing along with his entire family and friends and other servants, etc. And in Angaraka, our Kartikeya is residing. Kartikeya, the son of Lord Shiva, he resides here along with his family, friends, and etc. etc. Other companions. This is his residence. As we go upward by another 2 lakh yojanas, we go to Bruhaspati. Bruhaspati is generally auspicious for the Brahmanas, and he travels each sign in one parivastra, that is equal to 360 days. Basically, in 1 year, he stays in each sign, each zodiac sign. Like that, he covers all the 12 zodiac signs in 11.87 years, because it is 360 days. So we are less by 5 days, something like that. But overall, around 12 years it takes to cover all the 12 zodiac signs. So, and as we go upward after Bruhaspati by 2 lakh yojanas, we come to Shani or Shanichara or Saturn. So in that Bruhaspati or Guru Graha, Bruhaspati himself stays along with his family members, friends or relatives. He is the preceptor of all the devatas. Just like Shukracharya, preceptor of all the asuras residing in Shukra Graha, Bruhaspati stays in Guru Graha. So he is always very, and then comes Saturn, Shanichara. Here the Shani himself stays. Shani is the son of sun god. So he is staying there, but he is always very inauspicious for the entire universal situation. And he passes through each zodiac in 30 months. Basically, 2.5 years he spends in each and every zodiac. So like that, it takes around 30 years to complete the 12 signs of the zodiac. So these are the few details about all the 7 grahas compared to 7 weeks of the day, 7 days of the week. So then, as you go above Saturn, there we come to Saptarishi Mandal, which is located at a height of 1.1 million yojanas, much higher in comparison to Saturn. And the Saptarishis always think about the well-being of all people in the entire universe, especially that of Bharatavarsha. And these Saptarishis, being situated in Saptarishi Mandal, there are 7 rishis. Each one resides in one nakshatra of the Saptarishi Mandal. And they continuously move around Dhruva Loka, which is Lord Vishnu's supreme abode. Bhagavato Vishnur yat paramam padam pradakshinam prakramanti. So they are continuously doing parikrama around Dhruva Loka, which is the abode of Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, Bhagavato Vishnur yat paramam padam. So that is what they do. And the sages are around 2.5 million yojanas above the sun. And the total in relation to sun, the Saptarishi Mandal located at of 2.5 million yojanas. They rotate around Dhruva Loka, and the Saptarishis for the current Manvantara are Kashyapa, Atri, Vashishta, Vishwamitra, Gautama, Jamadagni, and Bharadwaja. So these are the 7 Saptarishis, 7 sages during the current Manvantara period. So about whom we hear in our Bhagavatam, Ramayana, Mahabharata, etc. etc. Kashyapa comes in the Bhagavatam 6th canto, Atri comes in 4th canto, Vashishta comes in the 9th canto, Vishwamitra also comes in the 9th canto, Gautama also comes in the 9th canto, Jamadagni comes in the 9th canto, and Bharadwaja also comes in the 9th canto. All these people, their pastimes are nicely mentioned in the 9th canto of Bhagavatam. So here is the pole star. These are the Saptarishi Mandal, and they continuously revolve in the clockwise direction, like a parikrama, just the way we do parikrama in the morning around Tulsi Maharani. Like that, they continue to do parikrama around pole star. That is because it is the abode of Lord Vishnu. So you can see here, this is called Big Dipper. The modern scientists call the Saptarishi Mandal as Big Dipper, which can be seen every day. Yes, in the northern direction. And as you go upward, starting from Saptarishi Mandal to a height of 1.3 million yojanas above the sages, we come to Dhruvaloka, which is also called as pole star, the abode of Lord Vishnu. So this is the abode of Lord Vishnu, Vishnoho Paramam Padam. Dhruva still resides at the life source of all. Since Dhruva Maharaj is residing here, so this abode is now it is known as Dhruvaloka. Being established by the Supreme Lord at the pivot of all the luminaries, planets and constellations. So it stays there. Jyotir Gananam Graha Nakshatradinam. The Saptarishis, Devatas, stars, Nakshatras, all circumambulate him in clockwise direction, offering respects to him. And he is made as pivot for all the luminaries that are there in the sky, luminaries, planets and constellations by Lord himself. And Lord himself is residing in this. And Sabahumanam Dakshinata Kriyamana Idanim. So with great respect, offering humble obeisances, they continuously do parikrama around this pole star, who are all doing Jyotir Gananam, Graha, Nakshatradinam. Graha refers to all the Grahas, Nakshatra refers to the 27 Nakshatras, Jyotir Ganam refers to the 12 zodiac signs as well as the other stars, etc. So everything that is the Saptarishi Mandal, everything that is there in the ether, everything is revolving around pole star, since it is the abode of Lord Vishnu. So some details about Dhruvaloka we hear from 4th canto, 9th chapter in relation to Dhruva Maharaj's pastimes and austerities and benedictions, etc. etc. So after seeing the wonderful austerities of Dhruva Maharaj, the Lord becomes very pleased and appears in front of him. And after hearing the prayers offered by Dhruva Maharaj, then Lord Vishnu is responding. Nanner adhishtritam badram yad brajishnu drukshiti yatra graharksha taranam jyotisham chakramahitam. So since Dhruva Maharaj started performing austerities with an intention to get a place superior to that of Lord Brahma, with a position superior to that of Brahma, Padam Tribhuvanotkrishtam Jigisho Sadhu Artmame. So when Narada Muni comes to console him, Dhruva tells to Narada Muni that, my dear sir, if you can tell me a bona fide path in order to attain a place superior to that of Lord Brahma, then please tell me. Otherwise, please leave me. Something like that. So that time Narada Muni instructs him a process which is according to time, place, circumstances. Then Dhruva followed it. Then Lord Vishnu is telling in response to that desire. Nanyair adhishtritam badram yad brajishnu drukshati. So my dear Dhruva, there is nothing in this universe that you are looking for which is superior to Brahma's place other than my own abode, Druvakshiti, which is permanently fixed there. So Yatra Graharsha Taranam Jyotisham Chakramahutam, around which the Grahas, Rikshas, Taras, Jyotisham, Chakram, Jyotishakra, everything is continuously revolving in clockwise direction. So that is the greatness of this place, and there is nothing superior to this in this universe. I give you that residence which is eternal, Druvakshiti. The zodiac of planets, constellations and stars revolve around it. And then he says that how do they revolve? Medyam go chakravas parastat kalpa vasinam dharmo agni kashyapa shukro munayo ye vanaukasa charanti dakshini kritya brahmanto yat sa taraka. He says that, and Medyam go chakravat sanchu parastat kalpa vasinam. Kalpa vasinam, those people who stay till the end of the time are residing in this Dhruvaloka, till the end of the day of Brahma are residing in the Dhruvaloka. And around this Dhruvaloka, the others such as mentioned in the previous verse, Yatra Grahaksha Taranam Jyotisham Chakramahitam, they are all revolving just like when the cows are made, them means cows or bulls are connected to a pole. They can always move around the pole only, they cannot go here and there. They are perfectly fixed in their respective position. They cannot go in here and there. So like that, all these grahas, rikshas, taras and Jyotishakra, everything is being connected to poles in a fixed position. They continuously revolve in Charanti Dakshini Krutya, in the clockwise direction. Just like when we do parikrama around Tulsi Maharani, we keep our right hand towards Tulsi Maharani. So that is called Charanti Dakshini Kritya. So for example, in the morning, when we look towards the direction of sunrise in the east, our right hand is always towards south. So that is how the parikrama should be done. So like that, all these people are doing parikrama. So then later on, when of course, one more verse, Lord Vishnu himself says, Tato Gantasi Mastanam Sarvaloka Namaskritam. Therefore, please go to my abode. This is what I can offer you for your desire. Sarvaloka Namaskritam, which is worshipped by all the people of the 14 planetary systems. Uparistha Drishabhistvam. It is situated just above the Saptarushi Mandal. Yato na vartate gata. Having gone there, no one returns. So this is what Lord Vishnu is promising to Dhruva. Until the time Dhruva did not come there, it was known as Vishnu Pada. When Dhruva came there, it became known as Dhruva Loka. So that is what we can see. So in summary, we were discussing about Sun, Moon, constellation, Shukra, Buddha, Angaraka, Bruhaspati, Shani, Saptarishi, Dhruva Loka. So these are the intermediate gaps. So Moon is located at 1 lakh yojanas from Sun. Constellations are located at 3 lakh yojanas from Moon. So like that. But with respect to Sun, so what is the total height of their respective places? So Dhruva Loka is located at 3.8 million yojanas, Saptarishi 2.5, Shani 1.4, like that. So these are the respective locations of all these planets with respect to Sun in height wise. Same thing we can see in a picture. So here we have Sun, which is 1 lakh yojanas above Pushkara Dvipa, and from sun rays 1 lakh yojanas above is Moon, about 3 lakh yojanas constellations, about 2 lakh yojanas Shukra, about another 2 lakh yojanas Buddha, another 2 lakh yojanas Mars or Mangala, another 2 lakh yojanas Bruhaspati, another 2 lakh yojanas Saturn, another 1.1 million yojanas or 11 lakh yojanas Saptarushi Mandal, about 13 lakh yojanas Dhruva Loka. So these are the respective places, their location, etc. Of course, this picture is not to the scale because simple to understand. From the Mount Meru to the chariot wheel, it is around 15.75. That means 16. Here to here is 16 million yojanas, and from here to here it is only 3.8 million yojanas. So this is like 1/4 of that. So like this it can be. So of course the planets are one above the other, but that is a very close band. So even this picture is also not to scale. So this may be 1:2 ratio. It is supposed to be 1:4 ratio. If this is 4 and this is 16, so here to here 1, here to here should be 4, something like that. So here are some more pictures about all those things. Here we have Sun, of course, name should be there. Sun, here Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Saptarishi Mandal, and Pole Star. And we have Rahu, Ketu, about which we will discuss a little later in the 24th chapter. So these are the different positions of all these different planets. So same details are also confirmed in other Puranas. Some reference here Vayu Purana says, when Sun is in Dakshinayana tracks, he will be below all other planets. Okay, one interesting information. So whatever we see here, this is not the fixed position of all the planets. So this is the question always devotees ask, that Sun is far or Moon is far, who is near, who is far, etc. Though Bhagavatam talks about the positions of all these planets, saying that okay, from the Bhumandala they are at so and so height, like this, what you see in the picture, like this. So, but these are not the fixed positions. So what is being said in the Bhagavatam or other Puranas is the position of the planets on one of the Makara Sankranti days. On those Makara Sankranti days, Sun is in the bottommost position, other planets are situated above. As time progresses, by Karka Sankranti, maybe in the month of July, so Sun is here now, he will go above Saturn. His position is much above Saturn. During Uttarayana, he goes, Makara Sankranti, Uttarayana starts. By the end of the Uttarayana, in the month of July 17th, Sun is above Saturn. He keeps going upward and downward. It is not about not only Sun, but all other planets also go up and down, So this is the phenomena that is being observed in the movement of planets. So every planet has Uttarayana, Dakshinayana. They go some extent up and down. So how much we don't know, but the positions which are mentioned in the Bhagavatam other Puranas only corresponding to Makara Sankranti. So that is what is indicated in this Vayu Purana. When the sun is in Dakshinayana tracks, he will be below all other planets. That is basically the far end of Dakshinayana. Then moon moves above sun with a large disk. The star belt moves above moon. Buddha will be above the star belt. Then there are Shukra, Burahaspati, Shani, Saptarushis, and Dhruvaloka. The planets are situated one above the other by 2 lakh yojanas in order. So it is like that. Dakshinayana margasto yada bhavati rahimavan tada sarva grahanam sa suryo adastad prasarpati. Basically, during Dakshinayana track, sun is gradually going downward in relation to all the other planets. But on Makara Sankranti, sun will be placed at the bottommost position. So that is indicated here in Vaipurana. So it is all about different planets with their respect to position. Any questions based on the position of the planets?
Guruji, in your previous slides, I just wanted to re-clarify. There were these words used as 12 signs, and then Taraka, and then Jyotisham. So equivalent to that in English, what is actually referred to? What is called as 12 signs?
What is called?
12 signs. SIGNS. You are in a previous slide, there was a mention as 12 signs.
Yeah, 12 signs. Signs is the English word. We call in Sanskrit as Rashis. 12 Rashis.
Okay, 12 Rashis. Okay.
Zodiac signs. 12 zodiac signs.
Okay, so is the Jyotisham refers to only sun and moon?
No, Jyotisha refers to Jyotish Chakra. Jyotish Chakra refers to that 12 signs.
Okay.
Jyotisham Chakra Mahitam. Jyotisham Chakra refers to Kala Chakra or time wheel, which is made up of 12 zodiac signs.
Okay.
So, any other devotees? Any query?
Hari Bol.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhuji, so when we consider the Navagrahas, so these 7 grahas, and which are the other 2 then?
Rahu Ketu.
Rahu Ketu, okay, they are also considered. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
Prabhu.
you see, I showed you. Yeah, Rahu Ketu.
Okay.
About which we will discuss in the 24th chapter.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
So in Rahu resides, in Ketu resides. So these grahas are not like abandoned places, but they are also proper residential places of all these heavenly beings.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, this last session, this moon we discussed, which is not the other side of Meru mountain. It will be moving this side of the Meru mountain. But this diagram shows.
Prabhuji, it's okay. So diagrams are all indicative.
Yeah.
So I am not that adept making all the diagrams exactly as they are. So I mean, keeping a center Mount Meru in the center, I put, because all discussions we do like this only with this viewpoint. So in order to show that viewpoint, I need to keep this earth globe on this side, and earth globe is very small. The orbit also very small. This orbit I put everything I put big. These are all not exactly to the scale. They are all indicative for us to help us understand. Okay, ek ke baad ek, ek baad ek, ek baad, like that.
Prabhuji, one small doubt.
Yes, bro.
That the sun rotates, keeping the center as Meru entirely around the Manasottara mountain, means it actually rotates around the Jambudvipa, right?
Yes.
Whereas the moon rotates only keeping Earth as the center. There is a Bharatakanda as the center.
It's not like that. I will tell you. According to Bhagavatam, we understand everything is rotating around the Mount Meru only. But Bhagavatam does not get into details. It says in essence. So, but according to Sri Thiruvenkada Ramanujayar's drawing, all the planets rotate around a line drawn between Dhruvaloka and Bharatakanda. That will be their central axis. I'll tell you, it does not make much difference. The distance between center of the Mount Meru to the chariot wheel, it is 15.75 million yojanas. and the distance between the center of Mount Meru to the center of Earth globe, that is 50,000 yojanas. 50,000 yojanas means 0.05. 15.75 minus 0.05, it will become 15.7.
Okay.
So the 0.05 is like a very insignificant percentage.
Okay.
So in the mathematics, it is considered as negligible, so it is ignored.
Okay.
So it is like that.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, we will go ahead, we'll move on. So now in the 23rd chapter, Bhagavatam goes into little more details. Few more additional details are presented in the 23rd chapter, in addition to what we discussed in the previous slides. So there is something called as Shishumara planetary systems. It is called as a great machine consisting of all the stars and planets. It resembles like a Shishumara, which Prabhupada translated as dolphin. In the Sanskrit is said as Kundali Bhuta Dehasya. Bhagavatam Shloka says that it is Kundali Bhuta Dehasya. Kundalini Yoga is very famous. People will practice it here and there. So Kundalini Yoga basically talks about how to energize the backbone, etc., etc., something like that in connection to the backbone. So this dolphin is like that, the backbone of the entire universal structure. It is considered to be an incarnation of Lord Krishna or Vasudeva, and the yogis contemplate upon this imaginary Shishumara as the incarnation of Lord Krishna, and they meditate upon it as Lord's Virat Rupa. This entire Shishumara chakra is considered by the yogis as a Virat Rupa, and they do meditate upon it because it is actually visible. The Shishumara chakra, the entire the luminaries combined together appears to be like a dolphin, which is actually visible. That's why. And they describe this particular Shishumara planetary systems as the zodiac, Jyotir Anikam, because it is very much closely connected with the Jyotish chakra. The yogis who are sitting in India in the Himalayas, as they sit on meditation, they actually see this Shishumara, a dolphin, appears to be like jumping across the ocean. Like this, they actually meditate, the Himalayan yogis. That is what scripture suggests. So, because it is actually visible to others also, these are some pictures captured by the camera, the modern man camera. They see sometimes this kind of picture. So one is towards the true north, one is towards true south. So they have given names also to different things that I have observed in this dolphin structure that they see. So we don't get what is what. Maybe here you can know Sagittarius, one name we can hear. So etc., etc. Sun we can see here. Others I don't know. When we present to school children, they actually identify because they study all these things in their school nowadays. So they say this is like that, but I don't know. So further details about the Shishumara planetary systems. Its head is downward and its tail is upwards. The head of the Shishumara, the head of the dolphin is downward and its tail is upward. And its body is coiled to its right side. Its entire body is bent onto right hand side. Its body is balanced by 14 stars located on either side. We have 28 stars in total, 28 nakshatras, 27 plus 1, 28. 14 are on the right side, 14 on the left side. So the entire body is perfectly balanced. And this is considered as Lord Vishnu's external form. Lord Vishnu, just like Bhumirapo Nalo Vayu Kamano Buddhireva Chahankara Mitiyame Binna Prakriti Ashta, Binna Prakriti, Prabhupada said that this is my external energy. Like that, this Virat Rupa is the external form of the Supreme Lord. And in the Bhagavatam 6th canto gives an information about this Shishumara. Dosha with the 7th Vasu. So he married Sarvari, and Sarvari gave birth to Shishumara, who is considered to be one of Lord's expansion, Arkala. Doshasya Sarvari Putra Shishumaro Hare Kala. So it's like that. So this Shishumara planetary systems is the resting place of all the Devatas, all the stars, and all the planets. Jyotir Gananam Graha Nakshatra, all those things have shelter in the Shishumara planetary systems. So here couple of images you can see. In the Vedic cosmology video is only Dhanavali Goswami Maharaj and his team. They depicted the Shishumara like this. And here is the pole star, and here is the Bhumandala, and here are all the other set of stars, etc. Everything is there. So the yogis in India, when they meditate like this. But Bhagavatam says that the head is upward and tail is downward, which is also shown in the previous picture. The head is downward and tail is upward. So how do we reconcile this picture and this picture of the yogis meditation? When the yogis in Himalayas, in our Himalayas, they meditate, they see like this. So the understanding is like this. The yogi sitting in Himalayas, as he meditates, he sees the Shishumara manifestation like this. So Himalayas means somewhere in India. So it is somewhere very close to Line of Equator. But in reality, our earth globe in relation to the Bhumandala, it is like this. So this is the entire Bhumandala, and here in the center we might have Jambudvipa. In Jambudvipa at one corner is Bharatakanda. It is like this. The yogi who is sitting in Himalayas is like this. So previously when he is seeing, normally when he is observing in meditation, he sees a dolphin like this. But for a person outside in the universe, as an outside observer, so the Shishumara is like this. The head is downward and tail is upward. So with this Shishumara, so what are those things that are mentioned in the Bhagavatam? Bhagavatam says that on the upper end of its tail is Dhruvaloka. On the body of its tail is the abode of Prajapati Daksha, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. All these people reside on the tail of the body of the tail of Shishumara. At the base of its tail, where the tail is connected to the body, there Data and Vidata reside. On the hips, the 7 sages, Saptarishis are there. On its genital, Saturn. On its back of neck, Jupiter. On its mouth, Mars. Within the life hairs, Mercury. On its navel, Venus. And the right side of the coiled body, 14 stars from Abhijit to Punarvasu. And the left side of the coiled body, 14 stars from Pusha to Uttarashad. So these are the few details that are mentioned about what are the locations of all various things. And also goes into more details. On the back of the Shishumara, Ajaviti star, that means constellations on the southern part. On its abdomen, there is Ganga. Through the abdomen of the entire Shishumara, there is Ganga, which flows in the sky, which is called as Akasha Ganga. We call it as Akasha Ganga. The modern man calls it as Milky Way. So the Ganga, which is flowing in the sky, starting from the Dhruvaloka coming to the top of Mount Meru, it is seen as Akasha Ganga, that is seen by our modern science as Milky Way. And within the mind is moon, and its chest is the sun, and the heart, in the core of the heart, Narayana, and its breast, Ashwini Kumaras, neck, Rahu, upper chin, Agasti, lower chin, Yamaraja, and it's all over its body. There are comets, Ketava Sarvangeshu. Ketus are there all over its body, Ketu comets, and on its skin pores, the numerous stars, Romashu, Taragana. So this particular Shishumara has got so many skin pores, and every skin pore is connected to Tara, different Taras. So like that, different things are situated in its bodily limbs. On top of the tail is Dhruvaloka. On the body of the tail, the abode of Prajapati, Daksha, Agni, Indra, and Dharma. At the base of the tail, Data and Vidata. And just below that, Saptarishis, Vasishta, Angira, etc. And below that, we have Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Mercury, Venus. And below that, we have 28 stars, 14 other side each. And then we have moon in the mind, sun, then Ashwini Kumaras, then Rahu and Yamaraj. In the heart, we have Lord Narayana with the Paramatma of the entire Shishumara, etc. etc. So this is how the all different details that are mentioned in the Bhagavatam we can see in relation to the Shishumara. So few additional details we can see that, of course, this we have discussed already about planets and all, nakshatras, all these things, sun, moon, etc. Data, Vidata are 2 of the 12 Adityas. They are also residing here. Prajapati Daksha is here. Agni is here. Dharmaraj is also here. And Indra's abode, known as Amaravati, is located just below Dhruvaloka. In the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Bhagavatam, we hear about Indra Samaravati, which is occupied by all the Asuras, Rakshasas, etc. That abode is here, just below Dhruvaloka and above Saptarushi Mandal. So it's like that. So here is Shishumara. And then in couple of verses, Bhagavatam goes into the details about Where are these 14 stars are located? So 14 in this side, 14 in this side. So how they are located? So different details are mentioned. We will discuss about this maybe in one of the future sessions. There we'll use them in order to explain the Shishumara Kala Chakra. So that is about the Shishumara planet systems, which is the shelter of all the grahas, nakshatras, and taras, etc. etc. Everything is connection with the Shishumara planet system, etc. And who is situated where is also being indicated. And then in the last verse of this 23rd chapter, in the purport, Srila Prabhupada, quoting Vishnu Purana, briefly talks about the 4 upper planetary systems, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, about which anyway Bhagavatam does not talk about them in the Bhagavatam 5th canto. So, but these are located just as you go upward. After Dhruvaloka, as you go upward, there is the abode of great sages and rishis. Siddhas and rishis in large number reside in Maharloka. And as you go upward, there is Janaloka. Here also the great sages and rishis are residing, headed by Bhrigu Muni. Bhrigu resides in Janaloka. And as you go upward, there comes Tapaloka. It is also the abode of great sages and rishis, headed by the 4 Kumaras. Here in Tapaloka, so one of the 11 Rudras also reside here. So we have seen one Rudra is residing in Nilavrta Varsha in Kailash and Karavira mountains, and another Rudra is residing in another Kailasha mountain in the greater Himalayas, and this is the 3rd Shiva, or 3rd Rudra residing in Tapaloka. So then as you go upward, we come to Satyaloka, which is the abode of Lord Brahma, where Lord Brahma resides along with his associates and others, etc. etc. So this is what is being indicated in the purport, quoting from Vishnu Purana, some details about them. So we have got some other additional details, taking reference from various places in the Bhagavatam about these places. So this is about Maharloka. This is from 2nd canto, 2nd chapter, verse number 25, where the yogi is gradually going upward. His journey is being discussed there. Surpassing the navel of Lord Vishnu. Navel of Lord Vishnu. If Lord Vishnu's Virat Rupa is the entire 4th universe, the navel is Dhruvaloka. I think that is the Dhruvaloka is considered to be the navel. That means surpassing the navel of Lord Vishnu, the area of Sarga and Dhruvaloka, with his very subtle, pure body, the yogi alone arrives at the worshipable Maharloka. So starting from earth, passing through sun, following the path of light, as it is indicated in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, he slowly grows one after the other, one after the other, and bypasses the Swarga, passing through Dhruvaloka, then he comes to Maharloka. So Maharloka is the abode of the sages who are called as Brahmavadis, Brahmavidam, who live for a kalpa. Enjoy. So Maharloka is the abode of Brahmavadis, whose lifespan is 1 kalpa, 1 full day of Brahma, and they reside here and they enjoy here by engaging in various type of austerities and tapasya, etc. etc. So this is about Maharloka. As you go upward, the yogi goes further, passing through Janaloka, Tapaloka, eventually comes to Brahmaloka. So here in the same section, 2 to 27, Bhagavatam says, in Brahmaloka there is no lamentation, old age, death, suffering or fear, except compassion for the suffering in the Bharata Varsha. So in Brahmaloka is the most auspicious and most happiest place, but by their own they don't have any problems, but they are only concerned about the miseries of the people in Bharata Varsha. That is only giving them some suffering. And then taking reference from 8th canto, chapter 21, verse number 2. This is in relation to Lord Vamana expanding himself at Trivikrama. So in that connection, who are staying in Brahmaloka is mentioned. There it says that the personified Vedas, the personified Upavedas, Nyaya Shastras, Itihasas, Vedangas, Puranas, Samhitas, Yamas, Niyamas, perfected Jnanis and the perfected Yogis who had attained Brahmaloka by mixed bhakti, by practicing mixed bhakti, all offered respects to Lord Trivikrama. So along with Lord Brahma, all these people always stay in the Brahmaloka. They are all offering obeisance to Lord Trivikrama when Vamana turned into Lord Trivikrama. Vedopaveda Niyama Yamanvitas Tarketi Asanga Purana Samhita. All these personified forms of these Vedic literature stay in the Brahmaloka. They are Lord Brahma's associates. ye chapare yoga samira deepita jnanagnina randita karma kalmasha. Those who practiced Nishkama Karma Yoga and then practiced Jnana Yoga and then practiced Ashtanga Yoga, all those perfected Jnanis and perfected Yogis eventually ascend to Brahma Loka. There they reside till the end of Kalpa. Eventually then they attain Brahma Sayuja. So that is also indicated here. So then, taking references from various other sections of Bhagavatam, especially the 7th canto of Bhagavatam, last 5 chapters and other places. So when a person follows the Varnashram duties according to the expectations, what will be their expected destiny? So Bhagavatam says that if a Grihastha follows Nishkama Karma Yoga properly, they are entitled to go to Swargaloka. If a Grihastha perform their Varna duties known as Nishkama Karma in the form of Nishkama Karma Yoga, they are entitled to go to Swarga. And if a person continues to practice Naishtika Brahmacharya for the entire life, they are entitled to go to Brahmaloka. And if a Vanaprastha practices the duties of Vanaprastha order very perfectly, they are entitled to go to Maharloka. And if a sannyasi who practices Jnana, mixed Jnana, Bhakti Mishra Jnana, etc. perfectly, as a result of that, they will attain Sayujya Mukti, passing through all these places. They pass through Swargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and Brahmaloka. Then eventually they get into Sayujya Mukti. And the yogis or jnanis following the path of light, they go all the way up to Brahmaloka. There they continue to stay for the entire day of Brahma. After that, they will attain Sayujya Mukti. And the karmis, those who are following Sakama Karma, they by following the path of darkness, they go all the way up to Pitruloka and then they come down. Pitruloka means the moon planet, and then they come down. So these are the various things we can see. So here are all the upper planetary systems. So here we have the entire universe. The lower half is filled with water, upper half is filled with all the planetary systems. So with more close vision, we see here Sun, Rahu, Ketu, Moon, Venus, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Saptarishis, Polestar, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka. These are the 4 different upper planets. And this is Satyaloka, which is the abode of Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma resides in this Satyaloka. So there is a small video which maybe talks about all these places. So just 1 minute video.
Vedic cosmology explains that the universe is made up of 14 vertically arranged planetary systems or lokas. Each system resembles a galaxy and comprises stars, planets, and other celestial bodies. The topmost planetary system is Satyaloka, the abode of Brahma, which is at a height of 1.87 billion miles above Earth. Below the Satyaloka planetary system is the Tapaloka planetary system, the abode of the ascetics, which is at a height of nearly 1 billion miles above the Earth. Here the ascetics live in a solitary, serene environment conducive for yoga and meditation on transcendence. Their disciplined life of joyous austerity prepares them for returning back to the non-material world. As we move down from Tapaloka, we pass through Maharloka and Janaloka until we reach the Svargaloka planetary system, also known as heaven.
So that is about the 4 upper planetary systems. And though it is not directly mentioned, but the Acharyas mentioned in their commentaries that just above this Brahmaloka, there is one Vaikuntha Loka, one abode of Vaikuntha. Just now, maybe in the previous, if you remember in the previous sessions, we have discussed that there is one Vaikuntha located above Loka mountain, where Lord Vishnu stays for the protection of all the planetary systems. And there is another Vishnu stays in Dhruva Loka, who gave blessings to Dhruva, who gave his own abode to Dhruva. So there, Kshirodaksha Vishnu resides. There is another Vaikuntha Loka which is located just above Brahma Loka, Here the Manvantara Avatara resides. Generally the Manvantara Avataras reside here. So there is a free space above Satyaloka, and after Satyaloka the universal covering starts at 16.2 million yojanas. So that is the gap between the Satyaloka and the upper universal covering. So in this gap, within this gap, in this free space, there is Mahavaikuntha, which is created by Lord Vaikuntha to please the goddess of fortune, Mother Lakshmi. So this Lord Vaikuntha is the son of Shubra and Vaikuntha, which is mentioned in the 8th canto, chapter 5, verse number 4 to 6, talks about birth of Lord Vaikuntha as the son of Shubra and Vaikuntha. And after marrying Mother Lakshmi in order to please her, he created this Vaikuntha. That is what is being mentioned there, which is further described in Srimad Bhagavatam, canto 3, chapter 15 and 16. So 15 chapter 3rd canto, where the 4 Kumaras entering into Vaikuntha. That is the place Lord Brahma elaborately describes about this Vaikuntha. That Vaikuntha is this Vaikuntha located just above Satyaloka. It is further described in 2.5.38.39, where it says that Burloka Kalpita Padbyam Burlokosya Nabita Hrudi Saragaloka Urasa Maharloko Mahatmana Grivyam Janalokosya Tapaloko Stanadvayat Murdhibi Satyalokastu Brahmaloka Sanatana. So it says that the 14 planetary systems are generally considered to be different body limbs of the universal form. So the Burloka Kalpita Padbyam, the Bhuloka along with the 7 lower planetary systems are considered the 2 legs of the universal form. And Bhuvarloka says Nabita, the navel portion is Bhuvarloka. And heart, the chest is considered to be Svarloka. Of course, heart is Svarloka, and Urasa, Maharloka. The chest is Maharloka, and then Grivyam, the throat, the neck is Janaloka, and Tapaloka, Stanadvayam. Stanadvayam refers to the 2 lips. The 2 lips of Vishnu are considered to be Tapaloka. As you go above, Murdhabi Satyalokastu. The forehead is like the Satyaloka, but Brahmaloka Sanatana. But as you go upward above Satyaloka, there comes Brahmaloka. Here Brahmaloka is not Lord Brahma's Loka. Brahmaloka is the abode of the Parabrahman, the abode of Lord Vishnu. That is Sanatana. The other 14 planet systems are not Sanatana. They are manifested only for the during the daytime of Brahma. But this Vaikuntha is eternal. So this cannot be subjected to the universal destruction, etc. etc. So it is called Brahmaloka Sanatana, but two means distinction. Same thing is also supported by Lagu Bhagavatamrita, which says Mahavaikuntha Lokasya Vyapakasya Atmana Prakati Karanam Satyopari Kalpanam Uchate. Satya Upari Prakati Karanam. Lord Vishnu manifested it just above Satyaloka. So, like this various references about this place. And here you see, these are the upper planetary systems. Here we have Satyaloka, which is the abode of Lord Brahma. Little above is the abode of Lord Vishnu. So this is the universal covering. Before universal covering comes, here is the abode of Lord Vishnu, where 4 Kumaras have gone to have darshan of Lord Vishnu. That place is here. The 4 Kumaras have entered, passed through 6 gates, and 7th gate Jayavijaya stopped them. Lord Vishnu came out and gave them darshan, etc. The all those pastimes we hear in the 3rd canto. And this place is further described in Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, 9th chapter, verse number 9 to 13, where Lord Brahma was given the darshan of Mahavaikuntha. Tasmai Salokam Bhagavan Sabhajita Sandarshayam Asa Param Nayat Param. Being pleased with Lord Brahma's wonderful austerities, Lord Vishnu displayed his own abode. There is nothing superior to it. Something like that. And then further described in 9.4.60, Vaikunthakya Medadaste Srinivasa Sriyasaha. Here, when Durvasa Muni wanted to kill Ambarish Maharaj, he created a fiery demon. But in order to protect Ambarish Maharaj, the Sudarshan Chakra comes and destroys that fiery demon and chases after Durvasa. Having gone to Brahmaloka, Brahma's abode, then Shiva's abode, then eventually enters into Vishnu's abode. That is this. Vaikunthakya Medadaste Srinivasa Shreyasa. He entered into Vaikuntha. There he saw Lord Srinivasa along with Mother Lakshmi. So then the same thing is again explained in 10, 18 and 66. Ato Jagama Vaikuntham Yatar Devo Janardana. Bhrugumuni, in order to test Brahma, Shiva and Vishnu, first he went to Brahma, tested. He went to Shiva, tested. Then he went to Lord Vishnu's abode in order to test him. So that happened here in this Vaikuntha. So this is the darshan given to Lord Brahma. The close-up of the same thing, how Lord Vishnu is being served by all his consorts. This is Durvasa is trying to kill Ambarish Maharaj by creating fire demon. Sudarshan Chakra chasing after Durvasa. That Durvasa entered into this Vaikunta where he saw Lord Srinivasa and Shriya Saha. Then Bhrigu entered into this Vaikunta and kicked on the chest of Lord Vishnu. So all these pastimes happened in this particular Vaikunta abode. Then, of course, Lord Vishnu pacified Bhrigu, but Mother Lakshmi felt offended and came down to Kolhapur performing austerities, searching after Mother Lakshmi. Lord Vishnu also came down and he continued to stay in Tirumala as Srinivasa. So like that, all those pastimes are connected to this Vaikunta. So after going through this Vaikunta, we go upward. There comes the universal covering, the 7 layers of the universal coverings made up of earth, water, fire, ether, false ego, ahankara and mahatattva. Each 10 times better than the previous one. Some say there are 8 and others say there are 10. Of course, different people have different opinion that there are 8 layers, there are 10 layers, etc. These are 7 layers. The 8th layer is made up of Pradhana or Prakriti. The 10 layers means the Pradhana itself has 3 modes. Tamoguna, Rajoguna and Sattvaguna, and all those 3 combined together, there becomes 10. So how do we understand that there are 10 layers or 8 layers? There is some information given in the Bhagavatam 2nd canto. Some technical information which is connected to Purusha Sukta prayers. So there are 2 verses in the Bhagavatam, 2.5.35 and 2.6.16, which are similar to the first 2 prayers of the Purusha Sukta. You can see that which are similar. Saiva Purusha Tasmad Andam Nirbida Nirgata. Utamrutasya Shana Yadanne Nati Rohati. And then Sahasroru Angri Bahu Aksha Sahasrana Shirshavan. Om Sahasra Shirsha Purusha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad. Sarvam Purusham Evedam Bhutam Bhavyam Bhavasyayat. Purusha Evedam Sarvam Yad Bhutam Yacha Bhavyam. Tenedam Avrutam Visham Vitatis Aditistati. Sabhumim Sarvatos Prushta Aditishta Dashangulam. So these are the lines which are equivalent to each other. So it basically the understanding is that Mahavishnu expanding himself as Garbhodakshaya Vishnu entered into the universe, expanded himself at the universal form, manifested himself all over the universe. Then after staying there for the entire lifespan of Lord Brahma, then he came out and he stayed outside at the Sahasra Shirsha Purusha with thousands of heads, legs, etc. So now, how much distance he came out? That is indicated by Adhyatishta Dashangulam. From the point of view of Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, he came out and became Karmadakshaya Vishnu, staying at a distance of Dashangulam, 10 inches, literally. But the 10 inches are corresponding to 10 universal layers. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, Ahankara, Mahatattva, Tamoguna, Rajoguna, Sattvaguna. These are the 10 layers which are covering our universe. That is indicated by Purusha Sukta prayers as Adhyatishtas Dashangulam. So here you can see this is our universe which we are discussing. So we have discussed about the upper planetary systems, Bhuloka, Bhurloka, Sargaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, etc. etc. So Bhuloka we have seen elaborately. Then starting from moon all the way up to Dhruvaloka, everything is Sargaloka. And the area between Bhuloka and moon, that is called Bhurloka. And then we have Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and above that we have also Vaikuntha Loka. And above Vaikuntha Loka we have 7 layers of the universe: earth, water, fire, ether, Ahankara, and Mahatattva. And then comes Pradhana, and Pradhana itself has 3 separate layers: Tamoguna, Rajoguna, and Sattvaguna. Like that, there are total 10 layers. So here you can see their dimensions of these 10 layers. So the internal diameter of the universe is 500 million yojanas. And the earth layer is 1000, water layer is 10 times to that, 10,000, fire layer, air layer, ether layer, Ahankara layer, Mahatattva layer, then Tamas layer, Rajas layer, and Sattva layer. These are all the different 10 layers, their dimensions. When we combine all of them, it comes like this. But to have a closest round figure, we can take it like this. So total outer diameter of our universe consisting of 10 layers is 10 to the power of 18 yojanas. And the universe of this dimension appears to be like a Paramanu in relation to Mahavishnu. That is what said in the 3rd canto, 11th chapter, one of the last verses. So after crossing this Sattva layer, when you go beyond Sattva layer, then what comes is Brahman. which is the region of liberated souls. This is the area between the coverings of the universe and the Vaikuntha Lokas. So after the 10th layer, there starts Brahman, and after Brahman, you get all the abodes of Lord Vishnu, the Vaikuntha planets. So there are so many. Vishnu Purana says that the Vaikuntha planets are located begin 10 million yojanas above universal covering. So in one sense, maybe more also, but apparently we can say that the width of impersonal Brahman is around 10 million yojanas. This is the width of impersonal Brahman, like that. Some number is given in the Vishnu Purana. So here is the complete picture. You can see here is Mahavishnu. There is unlimited material universes. This is our universe in which Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is here, 14 planet systems are here, 10 layers of the coverings are there. This is 7 layers, and this entire blue one is the 8th layer. We call it as Karna Ocean, or we can call it as Pradhana, whatever it is. And then there comes Brahman. After Brahmajyoti, there comes all the unlimited number of Vaikuntha Lokas. So it's like that. As you go upward, Vaikuntha Lokas, as you go inside Dwaraka, Madura, and then Vrindavan, etc., etc. So this is our universe, which is having all the different planets. Summary of all that we have discussed till now: Sun, Moon, constellation, Shukra Graha, Buddha Graha, Angara Graha, Brihaspati Graha, Saturn, Saptarushi, Dhruvaloka, Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, free space and outer coverings, region of liberation, that is Brahman and Vaikunthas. These are like some dimensions, as it is given in the Bhagavatam, etc. So this is our universe, consisting of all different divisions, subdivisions, planetary systems, etc., etc. So the same image, as per the details given in the Bhagavatam, when it is drawn to the scale, it appears to be like this. So this is our entire universe, as you see from the front view. The lower half is filled with water. Within that water, that is known as Garbhodaka Ocean. Within that water is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is situated within the water. And then, as you come out of the water, so here is the Bhumandala, the thick line, and here is the Mount Lokaloka mountain here. Here you can see small hub. The first circle is Dhruvaloka. Dhruvaloka is here. So between Bhumandala and Dhruvaloka are all the planetary systems, all the nakshatra, everything is between these two mountain range and below Dhruvaloka. All that we see in the night, all the nakshatras, constellations and zodiac signs, everything is in this area only. As you go upward, there comes Maharloka. Then you go upward, Janaloka, then Tapaloka, then Satyaloka. Above Satyaloka, here in this intermediate space, we have the Vaikuntha Loka, the abode of Manvantara Avatara, etc. And if you magnify this area between two mountains and Dhruvaloka, it is here. This is Lokaloka mountain. So here is Dhruvaloka. As you go upward, this is the Bhumandala, the terrace type of structure. Within the Bhumandala, we have several lower planetary systems, about which we'll discuss later. And here we have Rahu Ketu, here Sun, here the Moon, 27 constellations, Shukra Graha, Buddha Graha, Mangala Graha, Guru Graha, Shani Graha, Saptarushi Mandal, and Dhruvaloka. So all these things are drawn to the scale. Of course, height-wise, not horizontally, but height-wise, they are all drawn to the scale. So this is our universe. So consisting of all different lokas. Basically, we have discussed about Bhuloka in the initial few chapters. Then Sargaloka, consisting of all the various planetary systems. And then Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, and Vaikuntha Loka above Satyaloka. So in the next chapter, we will discuss the remaining things like Bhuvarloka, which is there between Bhuloka and Sargaloka, and also the 7 lower planetary systems, 7 Vilaswargas. They all come in the 24th chapter. So any questions till now?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
So the from till now the understanding is that the center of this universe can be called as the Sumeru mountain.
Yes, center of the universe horizontally and vertically it is Sumeru mountain.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you wait, Prabhuji? The upper, the Sumati and Harshita, there is there, and please go ahead.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for giving a wonderful class.
Can you come close to your microphone? Your voice is not audible, and speak slowly so it is clear.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for giving a wonderful class. So, Prabhuji, my question was that when the dolphin, which is upside down instead of straight, dolphin's different parts, there are the planets like Loka, Loka, and the Saptarishi Mandal, or are they like on different pieces of it?
See, the dolphin is seen by the yogis as upside down because that is how Bhagavatam describes. The head is downward and tail is upward. It is supposed to be like that. So all the planetary systems are not exactly in the dolphin, but when you draw a line, like a kind of what you can say, their representation in the dolphin, they are kind of connected to the dolphin. So it is like that. So the dolphin is very close to the center of the universe. So it is like the backbone of the entire universe, but everything is connected to the dolphin. If you remember in one of the images that the Bhagavad cosmology video has shown, there is a pole star here and everything is connected to pole star through a lines. So like that, they are also horizontally connected to the dolphin also through horizontal lines. So like that, they are connected.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji Harshita, I have a doubt.
Yeah, please.
Prabhuji, thank you for giving such a wonderful class. Prabhuji, my doubt was that on which part of the dolphin's body is the Bhumandala?
No, Bhumandala is below the dolphin. Dolphin is moving. Bhumandala is stationary. So I'll wait. Can you wait for a moment? I will go to that picture so that it becomes clear. I'll show you in the picture. Yeah, not this. Maybe a picture before. Yeah, here is the Bhumandala. The dolphin is above. It is revolving. The Bhumandala is stationary. Bhumandala is much below the dolphin.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. So if you just see this image, here you can understand what all there in the dolphin. There is no Bhumandala mentioned. And below this is the Bhumandala. Just above the Bhumandala, this entire thing is there. And starting from Bhumandala all the way up to Dhruvaloka, everything is part of this dolphin. So entire thing is called as Shishumara planetary systems. Yes, Prabhu, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Prabhuji, in the previous classes, you had referred that for the sun, there is 180 different orbits and then 360 about. So this aspect of it, and also you said there is a vertical movement for all the different luminaries also. What is the significance of this, Prabhuji, actually?
Basically, in a year, we have roughly 360 days.
Yes.
So sun travels in one orbit every day.
Okay.
So, but 6 months is going upward, 6 months is coming downward. So same 180 are repeated. So 180 orbits, 180 in the forward direction, 180 in the reverse direction. So like that.
Okay, so the same thing applies to all the other different luminaries also.
Yeah, but for the other luminaries, exactly how many orbits we don't know. But for sun, it is mentioned because that is required for us to make our Panchanga.
Okay.
Because in
So
the end, we have 360 days.
Also, you are mentioning not only the vertical, even the what do you call the linear axis also it changes, right?
Mm.
So what is the effect of that if linear axis changes?
Our seasons going up and down and to and fro causes our seasons, variation of seasons.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Anyone else?
Dhanavad Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Yes, where is the position? What is the position of Earth on this dolphin?
No, Earth is not part of the dolphin. This dolphin is moving. Earth is always stationary. Why it would be in the dolphin? It will be below. See, here is the Bhumandala. Earth is part of the Bhumandala. Dolphin is above, which is continuously revolving.
Okay. And Prabhuji, is this only this Shishumar planetary system? Is this only one planetary system in the whole universe, or like modern science, they say that there are multiple planetary systems? So,
I think a couple of days back we had discussion about this. I suppose last Friday, if you are there, you could remember. We discussed about it. All the stars that we see in the ether are the abodes of different heavenly beings. But modern science says that every star is another sun. So there could be a possibility of there is another solar system around each sun, each star. So like that they say. But according to Vedic understanding, it is not so. Stars are generally the abodes of Gandharvas, Apsaras, Kinnaras, Kimpurushas, Yaksha, Rakshasa, Kinnara, Kimpurushadi, etc., etc., etc.
Okay.
There is only one sun within our planet. There is only one Mercury, one Jupiter, one Mars, one Saturn. For example, the current picture, the last picture which I was showing you. Here. So whatever we see in the night, everything that is there only within this area. This area only. Starting from the Bhumandala all the way up to Pole Star, Dhruvaloka, and horizontally, vertically between two mountain ranges, Loka mountain. These are the two mountain ranges. And here we have one sun, one moon, one Rahu, one Ketu, and this one set of grahas. And this intermediate space is occupied by numerous stars, which are the residential quarters of all the different beings. So this is Bhumandala, and from the surface of the Bhumandala to moon, this intermediate sandwich portion, this is called Bhuvarloka. And from moon all the way up to Dhruvaloka, this is a whole place is called Swargaloka. The stars are here in this area, they are called Swargaloka. The stars belong to Swargaloka. The stars are here in this intermediate area. They are the stars of Bhuvarloka.
Okay.
So whatever we can see is only within this mountain range. We can't see anything outside, and hence we can't see any other universe.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And one more question, Prabhuji. My daughter is interested in all this. So, is it recommendable to go through some modern astronomy courses, or should we stick only to this Bhagavad cosmology?
So modern astronomy, anyway, they will teach in the school. So you don't have to specifically go through it.
No, I'm homeschooling her, so that is a concern on my part.
Yeah, see. Anyway, part of your homeschooling, you will teach the modern solar system, etc. That is part of your curriculum.
Currently, I'm not teaching her modern astronomy or anything. So should we teach or should we stick to this?
No, you can teach. You can say that this is what modern understanding of the modern scientists. See, ultimately, we may not be able to discuss in this presentation, but I have other slide, other set of presentations where I will reconcile this both modern science and Vedic astronomy both. The point of difference is frame of reference. Here we have everything is based on geocentric understanding. There everything is heliocentric understanding. There is a reason for it also. There is a genuine reason for that also. But the genuine reason becomes so as if arrogant. So nowadays it has become so like that. Without they completely removed the picture of the God from the entire thing.
Yeah.
So
better
you can explain both.
Explain both. Okay, fine. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
But anyway, modern science is not so difficult because all of us have heard in the school, we can explain it easily. But Vedic science, you need to understand first, then you can explain your daughter.
Yeah, and there are many contradictory portions between modern science and Vedic science. So that's why I was avoiding modern.
No, actually, we cannot say it is contradictory. We can say it is incomplete. The modern science talks about only a limited portion of our ether. So Bhagavatam talks about the entire universe. So this is our entire universe consisting of so much variety. But the modern science only speaks about one earth, one sun, and on the set of planets. That's all. Maybe they may say that all the stars are called as nebulas, Milky Ways, galaxies, that they give different names. Yeah. But ultimately they are all stars only. They are only talking about stars. But they don't have a deeper understanding of all those things. Of course, science does not need all of them because science don't believe in all of those things. But we are seeing, even the modern science says that these are all abandoned places. They are trying to find out whether people can live on the Mars, Mercury, Venus, or Moon. They are trying to find out. But according to Vedic literatures, we see that they are all the residents of all the heavenly beings. Every place people are residing. Yeah, there is no place is vacant in the entire universe except this Aloka Varsha. This Aloka Varsha is only not meant for residents because this is ocean only. Anyway, Garbhodak ocean. Ice, it is made up of icy land. So who can live there? Otherwise, everywhere, wherever there is a possibility for living, the living entities are residing. So that is the wonderful nature of Lord's creation.
Okay, thank you so much.
So modern science is not completely opposite on the sense. It is limited. It is not complete. It is incomplete. So from the Vedic literature, we get complete understanding. But sometimes we both seems to be opposite. Both seems to be contradictory to each other. But we need to spend some time. We need to understand why they are like that. So then we can reconcile both the things. In our book, I mean the book which I published, the Bhagavad Cosmology. So in the last chapter, I have kind of addressed this point, how we can see both of them are similar to each other. Of course, I did not go into much explanation, deeper explanation, but based touching upon simple things, trying to explain how we can see both of them. The geocentric model and heliocentric model can be both are same, but taking the reference, they seems to be different. So it's like
I'll go through all of this. Thank you so much.
correction. Any other question from any other devotees?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
From this explanation, one thing is coming in my mind. From our Earth planet, we can see.
Sorry. Please never ever tell Earth planet.
Bharatakanda. From our Bharatakanda, we can see Dhruva up to Dhruva Loka. We can see the Dhruva Loka planet.
Yes, we can see every day towards north, the Dhruva Loka.
But beyond that, there is abode of Brahma's abode is there.
Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka, they are all there. Yes.
But are those planets are visible from Bharatakanda?
No, Prabhuji, we cannot see them.
So it is a kind of a subtle element made of that. That's why.
See, even whatever we see in this area, we see them as the stars only. We can't see who is there inside. For example, moon. We can only see the moon as a white disk. We can't see exactly who is there inside the moon and the surface of the moon, etc., etc., because we don't have that vision to see all of them. So this is what we have discussed on last Friday. Why we have not given the vision of all the heavenly abodes. We are only seeing them as stars or some moving objects, moving bright objects. That is only to make Panchanga. Because we don't have that consciousness, that enlightened state of consciousness, etc. Kalena Balna Rajan, Ayur Nanchati Vayam. So because the progressive time, starting from Satya Yuga all the way up to Kali Yuga, we have lost that ability to see other things. So unless until someone is like a great yogi, can see. For an ordinary vision, they are not visible. So even the ordinary, the stars, over there in the stars, for example, whatever star we are seeing, that could be the abode of, for example, Saptarishi Mandal. We can see them. But one of the Saptarishi Mandal is abode of Vasishta. So Vasishta is there. Can we see Vasishta? No. If we can't see Vasishta within Sargaloka only, then how can we see Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Satyaloka?
So for my question is that like as we are seeing Saptarshi Mandal, we are seeing Dhruva Loka. For like that, can we see those planets, or it is not completely invisible? Like
no, we can't. We can't see.
We cannot see even the planets also. Forget about the details of the planet or who is residing on the planet. That is so impossible.
Even the Sargaloka itself is subtle, and they are much more subtle in nature. So we can't see them.
So beyond Dhruva Loka, we cannot see anything.
We can't see anything.
That is the conclusion. Beyond up to Dhruva Loka only, the visibility for the Kali Yuga people is there. Like that, we can conclude. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we will go ahead. So 24th chapter, the first 6 verses talks about Bhuvarloka. Bhuvarloka is the sandwich place between Bhuloka and Swargaloka. Starting from the surface of the Bhumandala all the way up to moon. Wherever the moon is there, the width of 200,000 yojanas, about 2 lakh yojanas, that intermediate area is called as Bhuvarloka. Bhuvarloka is also called as Antariksha. In the scriptures, whenever Antariksha comes, that is actually Bhuvarloka. It is the sky between heaven and earth, Bhuloka and Sargaloka. Vyav aprithviyor antarena nabo valayasya. Nabo valayasya is Antariksha, the sky between Sargaloka and Prithviloka. Te antarenantariksham tad ubaya sannidam sanditam. It is called Antariksha. It is like the conjoining portion between Bhuloka and Sargaloka. Ubaya Sanditam. It is a sandhi between Bhuloka and Sargaloka. Antariksha measures 2 lakh yojanas, joins both Sargaloka and Bhuloka. It is a place of enjoyment for Yakshas and Rakshasas. So people such as Yakshas and Rakshasas reside in this particular place known as Bhuvarloka. And Antariksha extends downwards as far as the wind blows and the clouds float in the sky. So though from the top, starting from the moon, it goes downward to a distance of 2 lakh yojanas, but Antariksha's effect or Antariksha's domain there, to the extent that we can experience the air with which we are familiar, the air which is moving around us, to what extent that air is there, that extent it belongs to Bhuloka, above which comes Bhuvarloka. So how do you understand to what extent that the air exists? To the extent cloud float and to the extent the birds fly. So that belongs to our Bhumandala. That region is called as Bhumandala only. Above that, the Bhuvarloka starts. So for example, the Pacific Ocean, which is surrounding India in the eastern direction, it is there always. But that region of the Pacific Ocean which belongs to India, we call it as Bay of Bengal. Starting from Bengal all the way up to Kanyakumari, some region in which we construct a port and we, like that, all those things we can do. That belongs to India. Afterwards, it is like it does not belong to anyone. It is like a universe's property, something like that. Yavad Vayu Pravati, Yavad Mega Upalabhyante. So till that, to the extent the air is there and to the extent the clouds float, that is belonging to our particular thing. For example, some of you are in overseas. So while traveling, the flights generally travel around 9,000 meters or 900 meters. 9,000 meters?
Yes, probably usually 10 kilometers.
Yeah, 9 to 10 kilometers. That is not even hardly 1 yojana. So Vayupurana says that there are some clouds which are generally called as Samvartaka clouds. They are placed at a height of 10 yojanas. 10 yojana means 10 into 13, 130 kilometers height. There the huge clouds are there which are generally called for destroying the universe. Like Indra called them for destroying Govardhan, destroying Vrindavan when Lord Krishna lifted Govardhan, something like that. They are located at a height of 10 yojanas. So we can say very nicely that up till 10 yojanas in height above the surface of the Bhumandala belongs to Bhumandala. And afterwards, from 10th to 11th yojana all the way up to 200,000 yojanas is the Bhuvarloka. Like that. So who reside in this place? The first one is Rahu. As you go downward from starting from sun. Rahu is situated 10,000 yojanas below sun. He moves like one of the stars. Rahu, he is the son of Simhika. He is the most abominable asura. Among all the asuras, Rahu is said to be the most abominable asura. Simple to understand. So when Mohini Murti was distributing nectar to the Devatas and asuras, at least the other asuras stayed quiet at one place. Mohini said that, please wait, I will come. But this Rahu and Ketu are so cunning that they transformed themselves into Devatas and they sat in the line of Devatas, so that we can understand what kind of nature is he. So Simhika married Viprachitti, and through Viprachitti, of course, through Simhika, Viprachitti begot 101 sons. So one is Rahu, the eldest one, the 100 Ketus. So Rahu resides in Rahu, 100 Ketus reside in Ketu planet. So Brahma made Rahu and 100 Ketus as 2 planets. Because they drank nectar, they became the leaders of Rahu and Ketu. They became inimical towards sun and moon. Because it is sun and moon identified them to be Rahu and Ketu asuras. So from the point of that pastime, they kind of developed enmity towards sun and moon. As a result of that, occasionally they express their envy towards sun and moon by covering sunshine and moonshine by causing eclipse. So occasionally on the Amavasya day, Rahu or Ketu covers sunshine, because of which he creates solar eclipse, Surya Grahan. And on the full moon night, he covers the moonshine, by which he causes the lunar eclipse or Chandra Grahan. So basically, those sun rays and the moon rays which are coming towards us, Bharata Varsha or Bharata Kanda, the Rahu comes in between. He kind of eats up all the sun rays and moon rays which are auspicious to us. Instead, he sends us the inauspicious rays of Rahu and Ketu. So as a result of that, we were told from many generations, during the eclipse, we are not supposed to come out of our home. Stay home, do not do any activity, do some Haranam Sankirtan, do not cook, do not do anything, do not eat. Just stay quiet till the eclipse is there. At the end of the eclipse, take bath and cook again, offer to the deities and accept it. Something like that. That is because that during the eclipse time, the effect of Rahu or Ketu is there, nullifying the effect of sun or moon. Especially in India, this is very, this is observed thing. The ladies during their pregnancy period are advised not to come out of their home during this eclipse. Many times, many of the ladies, they came out being exposed to Rahu or Ketu. The children were born with physical disabilities, mental disabilities. There are so many cases being recorded. So it is not some theoretical storyline. It is actually, we can witness, we can actually observe it. So obstructing the sun and moon, Rahu or Ketu attacks them on the full moon night and dark moon day. Basically, on the Paurnami night or Amavasya daytime, day of the Amavasya. On these days, they create an obstacle to full moon and dark moon for those looking from the earth. Hearing of Rahu and Ketu's attack, the Lord engages his dear Sudarshan Chakra to protect the sun and moon. Basically, when Rahu or Ketu are when sun or moon are obstructed by Rahu and Ketu during the eclipse period, all the devatas, headed by all the sages, they offer prayers to Lord Vishnu, Shrudaksha Vishnu. Then Lord Vishnu sends forth his Sudarshan Chakra. When Sudarshan Chakra chases after Rahu or Ketu, they will leave behind the sun or moon and they go away. That's how the eclipse is released. Maybe a muhurta or later. Seeing the intolerable heat of the weapon rotating in front of him for 48 minutes for one muhurta kala, Rahu or Ketu, frightened and worried, flees to a distant place. So generally the solar eclipse stays for one muhurta. That means it starts, when it is completely done, it stays for one muhurta, then gradually goes downward. The lunar eclipse stays for 2 to 3 muhurtas. It will take more time, lunar eclipse, to get released. People say that this entire phenomena is eclipse. Because of either precise or imprecise alignment, there are full or partial eclipses. When Rahu exactly comes in front of sun or moon, that is a full eclipse. When only half portion is covered, we have partial eclipses. So such kind of phenomena happens because of that alignment is not proper. So this is about some storyline in relation to eclipse. So that Rahu and Ketu are situated just below sun, a distance of 10,000 yojanas. So then as you go downward, there comes the abode of Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, who are naturally endowed with mystic powers, and they travel easily without airplanes. And they are located 10,000 yojanas below the location of Rahu. So Siddhas, Charanas, Vidyadharas, different category of devatas, they reside in this Bhurloka just below the location of Rahu and Ketu. And as you go downward further, there comes Yakshas and abode of Yakshas and Rakshasas. Along with them, there resides Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas. The Pishashas and ghostly being, they are all they are residing there. And these people reside 100 yojanas above the Bhumandala. From the surface of the Bhumandala, they reside 100 yojanas above. Tato adastat shata yojanantara yam prithvi. Basically, starting from Yaksha Rakshasa Loka, if you go downward by 100 yojanas, there will get Bhumandala. So it is like that. So Bhagavatam talks about only these people who are residing in Bhuvarloka, not many details. So we have Bhuvarloka or Antariksha. Starting from this Yakshaloka, Rakshasa Loka, we go downward by 100 yojanas. We have Yakshaloka, is the Bhumandala. So the Bhumandala's upper limit extends as high as swans, hags, eagles, and similar large birds can fly. So as we saw previously, the Bhumandala extends to the height of the air is flowing, the clouds are flowing, and these birds such as hawks, eagles, and swans can fly. To that extent, it belongs to Bhumandala, and above which everything is our Bhuvarloka. So roughly we can take 10 yojanas. That is where the Samvarta clouds are located according to Vayupurana. Yavad Damsa Bashpa Stena Sena Suparnadye Patatri Pravara utpatanti. Basically, to the extent these birds float, fly, that entire area belongs to Bhumandala. This is the upper limit of Bhuloka, earth, or the Bhumandala, above which there is no more air. So basically, Bhagavatam says that the air with which we are familiar, which flows continuously and touches our skin, etc., and helps us breathe, etc., etc., this air only exists to this extent. Now here it is 10 yojanas. So till 10 yojanas, we can have the experience of the air with which we are familiar, above which this air does not exist. There other category of airs exist. There are 49 Marus. The 49 Marut Devatas are representatives of 49 different kinds of airs. They are the representatives. So few kinds of airs are familiar with us, and other airs are there in the upper Bhuvarloka and Sargaloka, etc., etc. So about which you don't know, but the air with which you are familiar does not exist as you go upward 10 yojanas or something like that. Even modern science also says that as you go upward into the space, you need to carry oxygen, etc., etc. So the air is not there above. So it is like that. And above this limit, there comes Bhuvarloka and Antariksha. So starting from sun, 10,000 yojanas below is Rahu, another 10,000 yojanas below is Siddha Charana Vidyadharas, and another 79.9 thousand yojanas below, there is Yakshaloka, Rakshasaloka, and Bhuta Preta Pishashas. And by another 100 yojanas below that, we have Bhumandala. So sun to the surface of the Bhumandala, it is 1 lakh yojanas. Here is the sun, here is the Bhumandala. From here to here, it is 1 lakh yojanas. So 10,000 yojanas below the orbit of the sun is Rahu and Ketu. So height wise, it is below sun, but the radius of this orbit is much less than that of a moon. The moon's orbit radius, we don't know, maybe 30,000 yojanas, as we saw previously from Rigveda. This is much less than that. The Rahu is much inside. And 10,000 yojanas below that, we have Siddha, Charana, Vidyadharas. And below that, we have Yakshas, Rakshasas, Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas. They reside here, somewhere here, etc. So this is their main place. The Bhuta, Preta, Pishashas actually reside here, etc. So though it is not mentioned in the 5th canto, but we can see that the Gandharvas and Apsaras reside above sun and below moon. And also Kinnaras and Kimpurshas also reside above sun and below moon. So these are the different category of people who are residing in the Bhuvarloka. So in 3rd canto, chapter 10 and chapter 20 talks about Lord Brahma's various creations, especially the 8 category of superhuman beings. So I will count and inform one by one. Kindly remember, the first category, the main devatas who reside in Svargaloka. So this picture we have only Bilaswarga, Bhuvarloka. So the main devatas are residing in Svargaloka, which is above moon, all the way up to pole star. And then the Asuras, who are known as Daityas and Danavas, they reside in the 7 lower planetary systems in the Bilaswarga. They all reside here in this area. We will discuss about them in the next class on Friday. The Asuras are primarily residing in this place. And out of 8 categories, the Devatas are in the Svargaloka, Asuras are in the Bilaswarga. The remaining 6 categories, they reside in the Bhuvarloka. So one category, 3rd category is Adhyas and Pitrus. They are the 3rd creation of Brahma, they reside in the moon planet. In the 4th category is Gandharvas and Apsaras. 5th category is Kinnaras and Kimpurshas. 6th category is Siddhas, Charanas and Vidyadharas. 7th category is Yakshas and Rakshasas. And the 8th category is Bhuta, Preta, Pichashas. So out of the 8 categories of superhuman beings, Devatas reside in Svargaloka, Asuras reside in Bilaswarga, and the remaining 6 categories reside in Bhuvarloka. So basically, we are trying to understand who is residing where, etc. The human beings and all the other variety of animals, they are residing in the Bhumandala and of course Bharata Varsha, and somewhat intermediate heavenly beings, they are residing in the remaining part of the Bhumandala, that is Bhaumaswarga, and the Gandharvas, Kinnaras, Kimpurshas, Yakshas, Rakshasas, they are residing in the Bhuvarloka, and the main Devatas residing in the Svargaloka, Asuras in the Bilaswarga. So this is how we can understand who is residing where, etc., etc., from these descriptions of Bhagavatam. Yeah. Hare Krishna. So we'll stop here, and on Friday we will discuss about the 7 Bilaswargas, the 7 subterranean heavenly planets, and also the remaining portions of Lord Shesha and helix planetary systems, etc., etc. We will discuss on Friday. So before closing, any questions? Yes, Prabhu, Sundar Gopal Prabhu.
Prabhuji, I just want to ask one question.
Hmm.
Before that incident happens, that Rahu and Ketu drank the nectar,
Hmm.
before that event, there
Hmm.
were no eclipse.
Oh, not like that. Before that also there could have been eclipse. So the eclipse, the planets are always there. The asuras known as Rahu and Ketu were born from Kashyapa. Of course, from Kashyapa and other lineage, Kashyapa's grandchildren. Dwara. So afterwards, after this pastime of Samudra Manthan episode, these personalities known as Rahu and Ketu have given permission to stay in those 2 planets because they are staying, because of them that they are called as Rahu and Ketu, and the eclipse is happening. Before that also eclipse is happening by those planets, and whoever was residing in those planets, they might be called with those names. For example, Dhruvaloka, before Dhruva came there, it was known as Vishnupada. When Dhruva came, it became known as Dhruvaloka. So like that, we can understand.
Okay, so that means that before this, the Rahu and Ketu came into this planet, the eclipse were inauspicious or auspicious?
We need to refer to other pastimes, because this pastime happened recently, that is being spoken in the Bhagavatam and other Puranas. We know about it. So what was the condition before? We don't know. So we can extrapolate and say before also it was inauspicious. That inauspicious means due to maybe some other personalities, may not be by Rahu Ketu, but by some other personalities, we can say.
Okay. So that means this Rahu and Ketu planet is actually for some condemned personalities, something like that. Can we conclude like that?
I don't know, Prabhuji. See, what was in the past, we don't know. What is now, at least we are trying to get to understand. So let us be happy with that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I don't know. So
No. Yes, that is reasonably okay. Your explanation is reasonable.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. If there are no queries, so we'll stop here.